And my goal here is to demonstrate my submission for the hackathon, which is plugin framework library for building Web3 games on the Algorand blockchain within Godot game engine. And it's a work of art. It's definitely a work of art. So let's head on to how this plugin works, how to use it on your project, and what it comes with. First off, you are going to have to head off to my itch.io page, and this is where I make release builds of this plugin. You see the bright Algorand logo there. Click on it. It's some little description, and you can just download it right here. Download it and extract it to your add-ons folder. Once you have done that, you would be able to activate this plugin within Godot game engine. So let's go into Godot and let's see what this plugin comes with and how it can be used to develop Web3 games. The initial idea for this plugin came when my first submission for the hackathon. I wanted to build an NFT game with NFT power-ups. So in scoping around the tools to use, I observed that the current Algorand plugins in Godot game engine couldn't do the features I wanted. It was just a blank script and you had to write all the transaction logic yourself. And so that's what I did. For 22 days, I wrote basic transaction logic that can allow game devs within Godot game engine execute transactions and build logic on those transactions within Godot game engine. So just delete this, and here you can see if you want to create an Algo node, which is an amalgam of Algorand and Godot. Algo. If you want to create a node, you just come here like any other node within Godot game engine. You come and you click Algo, and boom, you already have an Algo node with a bunch of parameters. Here you can put in funder's mnemonic, funder's address, receiver's mnemonic, receiver's address, and you can also debug some. There's been a debug test written within the script that once all these parameters are filled, it would run through transaction tests and give you the feedback. So in case you want to check that out, you can. Then what does this plugin come with? It comes with base transactions for executing logic. That's transaction logic within this game engine without having to interact with other programming languages. So if you click right here on the inspector tab, you can see that there's a built-in documentation. Now this built-in documentation shows all the features this node allows. So here it shows all the methods that can be instanced within the core node, and you have all the methods here. You can compile till, you can construct asset transfer transactions, you can construct payments, you can generate new addresses, you can check the health of a connection between this plugin and your Algorand node, like your Algorand server that's going to process transactions. You can send transactions, you can send grouped transactions, you can set the URI of a node, you can assign transactions, you can use suggested transaction parameters, which means that Algorand node would give you a suggested transaction fee and use that to run your transactions. You can create tokens with this plugin, and these are just the core plugin functions. These are not the second layer helper function that has been coded as a logic for you. So if you want to check this out to just build cool stuff on it, you can. The link to the GitHub repository is on my itch.io page, and you can just make pull requests. You can debug transaction ID all within this node. But the thing about this node is, if you are going to use the core node, if you're going to be using the core node, you would run into bugs and errors as expected for every debugging process. So in order to mitigate against, to shove off development time for any newbie developer and make it so easy for them that they could even use a visual script to just code this logic, there's a helper function, which is this node itself that we created earlier. And these are all the functions that are created in this node. All the transaction logic has been written down. You just have to build your game on this. So with this node right here, you can time out the node. So if your transaction is taking too long, let's say it's taking more than 10 seconds or up to 7 seconds, you can time out. You can feed it a parameter and it will time out that node once the time has run out. You can create, before you run any transaction, first you have to create an Algo node, and this initializes the node. Right here, let me just show you. If you are familiar with writing smart contracts within Python for Algorand, you'll be familiar with these lines of code here. So it initializes the node, it creates a new Algo node, it sets the URL to your local host, and if you are running a sandbox environment, these are the parameters you use, and then it sets a token of these are the parameters for using the sandbox environment. And if you are going to be releasing to testnet or mainnet, you would have to, and it's included here, you would have to change these parameters to what's used for testnet and mainnet. So your algo.url will point to the testnet link, that's the host link you're using. Then the algo.token will be another different parameter, but it would still work as intended. So let's go back to our documentation. Then you can send asset transaction to receiver address, and it takes 4 parameters here. It's simplification of atomic transfers. So you take your funder's address, which would likely be an escrow address written with a smart contract, and your sender's mnemonic and your receiver's address and your receiver's mnemonic, and then it constructs an asset a transaction of, no, it takes 5 parameters, forgive me. Let's look at this for a while. Send transaction to 0. Yes, you take your funder's address, your funder's mnemonic, your receiver's address, your receiver's mnemonic, and the amount you want to transfer over, and it constructs an assets and a transaction of that amount, sends it to the receiver's wallet, and then returns the amount info as a verification. So if you print out this function, you would get the amount sent to the receiver. That is the new amount sent to the receiver's Algorand address. So you can also send asset transfers to new addresses. So let's say you have a bunch of minted tokens or an NFT within your wallet. You can construct with just this one line of function, you can send over that asset to another receiver address. All the logic has been written down for you. You can check your account information. It will return you a dictionary of all details within that wallet, the amount of all the assets owned by that wallet, all the tokens were held by that wallet, and all the algos, the micro algos held within that wallet, also the wallet's address. It returns the dictionary, and you can also feed this node certain parameters if you are looking for specific information. And let's look for that method here. I check account information. Check account information. Yes. So you can feed it certain parameters. If you want to just get info on all the assets, you can feed it assets parameter, and to just check all the assets within that address and just give you that info. It returns that info to you, so you can just print it out or pass it and use it for whatever logic you are building on. If you want asset ID, to get the particular asset ID you're looking for and to return info on that asset ID to you. If you want just the amount, you just have to just leave that info blank, and it will return the wallet address, the amount, and everything contained within that wallet to you as information for you to construct your logic upon. Okay, so what else does this plugin contain? You can generate a new account, and that's for testing, or if you want to you don't want to use pre-used account, you can just generate a new account, and it return an array of the address and the mnemonic, so you can use that to even test and to construct new transactions between two signed addresses, and it would work. You can create group signed transactions, and if you are used to Algorand transaction logic within Python or JavaScript, you will know what a group signed transaction is, and you can execute. There's already a function for that here. It's a function for signing transactions. There's a function for creating assets. You can create an asset, give it a specific name, and specify the amount of that asset you want to create. The difference between an assets and NFTs. NFTs are limited in supply, which is just one, and they point to the metadata of that image file. Whereas assets could just be a specific number of tokens, let's say 1,000 or 500, that are created and stored to a particular wallet. So this plugin can create assets, but its logic to create an NFT hasn't yet been written. So I would advise, if you want to create an NFT, you just go, and there's a Python script I've written it on my GitHub. You just go and you run that script, and it will create your NFT for you with the metadata, and then you can just host it and send it to your wallet. So you can construct asset transfers. That's also an NFT or an asset. You can transfer it from the wallet to another wallet. You would have to know the asset ID, and it will just construct the logic for you. Rather, the logic has been constructed, so it will just send over your assets. You can opt into asset transactions, and you can also compile to. So there are methods to encrypt and decrypt user data, and those functions have been written, but because of the time limit for this bounty, they've been excluded from the release build and would be updated to the release of this plugin in later days and months. So what can this do? We've gone through all of this and we've seen what the plugin contains, but what can you do on it? That is something that is shown in my next video that is contained within the link below. Next video shows, and this was part of, it's used for indie game demo I've been working on. It shows how to build an NFT parser, and an in-game wallet that can withdraw transactions, that can withdraw micro algos from within a game, all using this plugin. So the link to that video is is in the description below. Thank you for having me, and the purpose of this plugin was just to show you around where everything is. So last thing I want to say, there's a built-in documentation here on your inspector tab, rather here on your viewport. It was formerly in the inspector tab. I found usability here to be quite difficult, so I moved it down here to the viewport, and it just gives a basic overview of every function that is used and implemented within this plugin. Thank you for your time, and I hope to make further consistent updates to this plugin in the nearest future. Peace out.